Welcome to BB Uncovered on the Movement Studio. With me today is a young global icon himself, a leader in the marketing industry. I have with me today Debola Williams, and he's joining us to share his journey and thoughts on BB. Debola, thank you for joining us on the Movement Studio.
My pleasure. I wouldn't miss this for anything.
Thank you so much. Now tell us, let's take it from the beginning. Actually, let's take it from the beginning. What is your BB story? What's your first encounter with BB?
Magazine,
Interview. Okay.
television. Just saw this man, aristocratically dressed, everything aligned. Father of advertising, they called him. And you would just wonder, one day I hope to meet him. One day I hope to be like him. One day I want to touch the hem of his pristine suit.
There were many of us like that.
My first physical encounter with him was from a distance. I had gone to Media Ridge, that's Oduduawe, to seek advertising in our magazine. And I saw him walk past. That's Troika, the Troika building. And I saw him walk past. This multicolored bow tie, and was talking sternly to someone. I said, yes, that is him, because he's always on it. I think I find that I admire deeply that stern, demand for excellence that you don't find in many places. So people can get angry in Nigeria or anywhere in the world as leaders. They can get angry and throw blames around, get angry and just, not get the work done.
Yeah.
But you find very few people who are anal about perfection, about excellence. And so when they're being stern, when they're demanding for work, it's not work that they haven't done. It's not work that they're not qualified to demand for. And he's one of those people. So I saw him that day. And even though he was, the people he was talking to, they were terrified. I was inspired. I was just like, whoa. Scream me a direction.
Scream me to excellence.
That's it. Scream me to excellence, And of course you can see that even the crop of people who've come through him, how they excel. And for people like us who spend the first couple of years of our lives gleaning from his wisdom, from television, from the magazines, from the newspapers and so on and so forth. So that's the first time I cited him, my Troika, which would probably be maybe about 16 or so years ago, not too long. I mean, the people who've known him, you probably known him for 30 years or something of that nature. So, and then the next encounter, I'm sure I must have seen him in places, but the next close encounter was when we turned 10 as a company, as Red, and then we decided to host an event. Now, myself and my partner, Chude, we've been fortunate that we grew up, on the shoulders of many people. Some in the marketing, many not in the marketing space. But we found that, in our journey, we were able to find help from many older people. We were able to serve. We have a clear, rule amongst ourselves, a clear value. You serve, then you receive. People say, oh, do you give to get? I say, I'd rather give to get than get and get.
That's
and
powerful.
so, we serve. And, in that line, we've been able to, find many older people who've also been of service to us, because life is about give and take, sow and reap. And so when we turned 10, we thought to ourselves, we didn't have, not as though we had so many people in the media who had given us a shoulder, but we thought before we formed this company and became what we've become, starting out as journalists into marketing and owning this company, there were people who were in journalism, who started advertising company, PR companies, who paved the way for us. So for our 10th year anniversary, we will thank them in return. We will host them, we will give them awards and celebrate them. It was a big deal. But it was also a big deal because Daddy Shobanjo agreed to chair the occasion.
Was that when we went to his office for a small meeting? I remember.
That's 10 years ago.
I never forgot that day, because you immediately after that meeting, I was turning 40. But I'm not 50 yet, maybe almost 10. But you sent me a cake. Oh, wow. Do you remember?
We must have, but we do these things because, we just think people need to be thanked,
Yes.
remembered, appreciated.
Mhm.
You know,
That was a very good gesture.
and so it was your birthday around that time. It's okay. And I remember that I think he also asked us to facilitate the meeting.
Yes.
So he also played a key role in an important
I
meeting.
remember.
So it was our little way of saying thank you.
I remember. I
Yes.
still see those pictures.
Amazing.
Guess the person that sent me the picture, the last Shola Bagua.
Oh, of course, my darling.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah, because she was one of the business owners of that
Yes, she was the
event.
business leader, and she sent me the picture when I'm like,
no
no way, that
was you. it must have been. So if it wasn't 10, it must be maybe about 9.
Yes, I think it was almost 9. Yes.
Yeah. And so we had that. Event, and not only the chair, he came, attended the conference, attended the dinner. Gave me his entire day. And since then our relationship has blossomed. Spend more time at his feet, learning, being inspired, regaling with all kinds of stories. And so it's been a privilege, to glean from such a wise, visionary leader. And I thank him for the gift of him.
That's amazing. While we're still on the topic of Bibi as a person, his personality, can you share, in specifics, some values that you admire about him?
Excellence. Forgive my French. He's anal about excellence. He's fixated on excellence. He's fixated on even cleanliness and near perfection and order. Like, he wants his shoes arranged this way. He wants his slippers. He wants his singlet. He wants his coffee. He's meticulous.
Yes.
And I have another mentor who coincidentally I celebrated at an event yesterday, Mrs. Auntie Mo, and she's the same way. She's fixated on excellence. She would demand. Ifeoma Williams was sharing a story because Ifeoma Williams hosted the event. When I said, Auntie Mo will call me at 6 a.m. We have a shoot at 11 for her show, Moments with Mo.
Yeah.
Say, Ifeoma, Cara, do you know what? She said, hello, Auntie. Do you know what time it is? I was like, yes, but it's 6 a.m. Before we have a shoot. Do you know how many clothes we have to change? And she's like, oh my goodness.
So that is a common thread.
It's a common thread for certain people who build monstrosity, who aim for something and achieve it. And who dream, like Daddy dreams of big things. He told me a story once about how I was trying to get a global deal, and with one partner, but his demands were sort of too high, for them. So he had to then keep it until he found someone who could meet his demand, but one thing they always say is you've got to dream so big that if you achieve little of that big, it is still big. If you dream small and you achieve little of that small, it's minute.
Small, yeah.
So you've got to dream so big. This is a man who created a new model entirely on how to segment your business, segment your customers in advertising. I remember a particular time we're in a big dilemma in our company, trying to decide between two companies who loved us. Two top tier banks who really loved us and wanted to work with us. But then, as tradition, you would say, oh, conflict of interest, and you don't want to work with two, companies who do the same thing. So I went to him and he told me a story. I'll give a shorter part of it, but simply how he had the same dilemma, of course, maybe about 20 years ago or something from the time I was telling the story. And he said, first, you are in a good place. They both want you to work for them. That's good. Now you have to be confident to match in there and make a demand of them. You have to be confident to give them the comfort that I will ensure you get excellence. He said that what they've come to you for is excellence. They want outstanding work. They think you can do it. So go in there and assure them you can do it. That's number one. Number two, they want confidentiality. Because at the end of the day, the two brands don't want to feel as though, you're giving
sharing information.
So how can you assure them? And the fact that they both want you already places you in front. So go and earn their trust. And then give them a plan, was the final thing he said. What is the plan? How are you going to ensure that there's a Chinese wall in between these businesses, the teams, and there will be no conflict?
Fantastic.
Needless to say, we got the two companies and and we worked for them for a good number of years.
That is an amazing story.
So this was a man who set standards and models that many of us have been able to walk on. A trailblazer by any
standards,
any definition. So yeah,
it's funny. I mean, you already went ahead of me because I feel like your own exploits in the industry and beyond, if I might add, is very reminiscent of the BB. So maybe you want to share some other, stories from BB's journey that you think you might have emulated to create your own.
I think maybe the other thing would just be his gusto, his drive to win.
His book, by the way, was called The Will to Win.
The Will to Win. He has such a strong will to win. Like, I don't feel like he ever gets into any situation where he doesn't want to win. And that is powerful. Me. I always want to win. In actual fact, I had a bit of conflict with winning recently. I was in a course in Harvard earlier in the year. And we went into a negotiation class. And when it was time to do the practicality, so we were broken into teams. And, I didn't lead the negotiation. I had 3 women and myself. So we nominated one of the women to lead the negotiation. So I played the bad cop. She was a good cop. And we went to that negotiation, and my goal was to win. My goal was not just to win on that table. My goal was to win the entire negotiation.
Yes.
By the time the results came out, we had to have the highest number. We went in. We went back and forth. I would watch them. I would, make my face. I would throw my body language. I was communicating with everything, throwing them off, just ensuring that we got our numbers. At the end of the day, we won. When we got to the table, I think one person was either same with us or something like that. But we really won. But what I found out later and I felt bad was maybe my body language. But those guys made a mistake. That's why we won.
Yeah.
So they miscalculated the offer, which, to be honest, is also part of the negotiation. If you're negotiating, couldn't see. But I did feel bad about that.
Yeah. And
I calculated and thought, okay, even if they didn't make that mistake, we will still have won, but not with that margin.
Okay.
But that's not the story. At the end of the negotiation, and the teacher says, negotiation is not about winning. It's about making sure the pie is big enough for everyone to share.
Let me sink that in. Negotiation is not about winning.
It's about making sure the pie is big enough for everyone to share.
Got you. So you have to stretch it more.
I mean, I thought about it. I agree, but I still disagree.
Okay.
And so in coming back to BB, the part about him that has one of the things that has fired me is his will to win. And I go about my life, or I've gone about my life until that class with that will to win. And I think I'm not stopping with the will to win, just that the only thing that class does is it gives me a different perspective when sometimes you say, okay, how do I want to share the pie?
Yes.
But the key thing that has driven me up until this my 38 plus 6 months, because I'm really counting how old I'm getting. I'm getting so old. I want to slow it down.
You are still very young.
I'm too old. I'm too old. I want to be 32 again.
Oh my God.
Is that will to win.
To win.
In everything he does, you see it. In the accounts, the kind of accounts that Insight has closed, the kind of accounts that you close at Troika, the kind of accounts, there's an agency he had. Like, you just hear that you guys have a new agency.
Yeah.
One will just show up on
almost 8
one will just show up on Sobo and Biodun. Like all that gear. It just
was
boom, 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 boom. But that was also part of winning, because the strategy was that for you to have multiple businesses from the same clients, in the mindset of winning, you have to open multiple shops. And so we learned from that.
Yes.
And in our group, we had multiple shops.
Exactly, because you have emulated that.
Yes, we learned from him. So we had, Zed, we had, so those are even the content companies.
Okay.
On the agency side, Zed, Creole, Statecraft, different organizations. To be able to, serve different people or serve the same company, but different parts
areas,
of it. And then sometimes if you had competing brands, you can serve them from different shops and different teams. That is also because you want to win. So that will. And, I call him daddy because, the way he advises you and the things he shares with you. And I know that he's also learned a lot from his father. He speaks about his father's, detail and, how there's a story he shared about he cleaning the house and his father will return and then check the floor and everything to see if there's any speck of dust. And if there's any speck of dust, the person that cleaned that house that day, and so he teaches us that. My friends will say to me, I'm not like him in that, I'm not as
organized
like him.
Yes.
In my own way. My friends will say, I have a particular friend who he's not scattered, but he just likes to enter a place and just says, when you come to Debola's house, you just sit like this because you don't want to stay in the chair, you don't want to remove your shoe, you don't want to this, Yeah. So people like, a few of my mentors and role models like daddy, I always call him BB. I can't even call him BB.
Well, for the purpose of the show, I know. I'm sure you understand.
I know.
He's daddy show to many of us.
The BB was here, daddy came out. People like him have impacted me to continue to know I'm doing the right thing.
Yes.
So I do, still strive to win. Really inspired by his focus, laser gaze focus, and at every point in time in his life, up to 70, still very active, even up to 80, I'm not as active, but still
very. If you put him on a project today, can I assure you he'll still lead the meetings?
I can assure you.
Thankfully, the projects have reduced.
Exactly.
The last big one, I was privileged to participate with him, was the launch of his book, The Will to Win. Yes. And this man will show up at every meeting at the exact same time of the meeting. He would lead the meeting, lead the conversations. Even on the day of the event, he's roaming around and he's like, making sure things are happening. He's just amazing. And I love the fact that everyone that actually comes here to talk to us about him says the same things. Yeah. That's a lesson in consistency.
A lesson in consistency.
It's amazing. I will come back to ask you for some 3 words you would describe BB with. But let's take a legacy message. How do you think BB will be remembered in the years to come?
I think his title as father of advertising already establishes, first of all, and I think that's such a treasure, when they call you father of modern America, father of internet, father of telecommunication, when we call him father of advertising,
the Tsar of marketing.
Tsar of marketing, it's not a small title.
Yeah.
And I think that in many years to come, our job is to ensure that we tell that story, that younger people in advertising and marketing know that before they were born, there was a man who broke the rules, who built the rules, who charted paths that hadn't been followed, who cleared the path. When they see a trailblazer, you have to visualize it. I've been visualizing it a lot. People never think about what it means. Being a trailblazer is that I go into a forest. There'll be my ideas and my exploits. I begin to fail and clear a path a path.
That is powerful.
Yeah. And I clear a path and I get to maybe 52 miles. What that means is that I've created 52 miles of walkway, 52 miles of runway that never existed. The people who've coming behind me can walk. Now, some people will stop at 30 miles and be okay. Some will do 25, some will do 40, some will do 42. And then maybe 1 or 2 will say, okay, maybe I will a day. But you know what? I see something. The only way that person who can move from 52 to 60 or 70 was because of the work he did that got 52. And that's why I talked about our anniversary that year. That even though some of these people had never directly impacted us, we knew at the time that they had cleared a path
for you.
And that path was why we could walk. We could dare to think, to dream. In actual fact, sometimes the forest is so thick and foggy and black that you can't even think. the gift of that small part, even if someone had done a part, that's why you have to also appreciate people who help in your life. Some people are able to follow through. Some are able to do just one thing. Then they don't do 2, 3, 4, then you get upset with them because you're ungrateful. Some are able to do something for you 10 years ago and say, oh, but it was such a small thing. It doesn't matter.
It
That
still
thing gave you a
opened the way,
glimmer of hope. It gave you some light. It might have been a little light, but that little light helped you move your feet 1, 2, 3, and you did not fall at the time. You know? So I would always remember him first as a national treasure who is, the star of marketing. But then I would also remember him, as a father, who gifted me his wisdom and who gifted our business models that we followed to run a successful business, who gifted us courage that we ran with to go into rooms and chase accounts and do things that people thought were above us. So
if he could do it, I can do it too.
Yes.
I love it. This is amazing. I mean, it's funny how the people I've spoken to since we started this series have all been older than me, and basically I've been feeling like, oh, I'm inspired by you. But it's funny how Debola then comes in here and easily is maybe a decade younger than me, but I have been so inspired once again by this conversation. And as we wrap up, I must thank you profoundly for accepting to join us on the movement for this all-important conversation. I assure you, this is an all-important conversation.
Absolutely.
Getting to 80 years is not even, it's not for toddlers. But before you leave, I would just ask you to describe Bibi in 3 words, and then to also wish him a very happy birthday in your own words. But describe him in 3 words first.
Visionary, excellent, consistent.
Fantastic.
I think those 3 words capture, to be fair, they're not enough, but we'll take the 3.
Everybody wants
that's
more.
enough,
We'll use the 3.
But Daddy, as you turn 80, I can't but be grateful to God for your life. I just want to say thank you for the gift that you are. Thank you for all that you've built, all that you've done. Thank you for creating the path, a model. Thank you for inspiring many of us and generations to come. Thank you for giving us what history books can talk about, that would write of a great man who was visionary, a great man who hard work was like water to him, who was like air that he breathed, who consistency was the walk that he walked, and who broke boundaries, crashed ceilings, moved mountains, and created an industry that, at some point also seemed like it belonged to a few. But he broke that monopoly and opened it up. I thank you for all that you are and all that you stand for. I pray that God who's giving you 80 will grant you 90 and 100 and any more that you wish for yourself. I love you, sir, and happy. And I'll come and do. Okay, this will come later. So I'd have come to do the lunch because we were supposed to have done lunch since like 8 Tuesdays ago. So I need to go and find Daddy this week.
He's away. He'll be back soon.
He's away.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So by
Thank
now,
you.
Daddy, I assure you would have done that lunch and many more.
Thank you so much, Debola. We have been talking to Debola Williams, founder, Red for Africa, and chairman, AW Network. Once again, thank you for joining us on the Movement Studio. My name remains Tosin Adefeko, but my friends call me Tosh.